and welcome to another reading lesson. Today we have a brand new text, and it's titled A Letter to Amy. Before we dive into our reading thinking job, our reading steps, and our new text, your teacher's going to pause the video and you guys are going to talk about what is a letter. Remember, last week we learned all about the post office. So today you're going to talk about what is a letter and what are some reasons people write letters. We learned last week, and you might have already done this before, a letter is a message that you write, and then you can mail it to tell news about family, or you can write a letter telling something about someone or something, or even asking questions. In an earlier lesson, we practiced identifying characters in the Three Little Pigs, and today we are going to use our text, A Letter to Amy, to identify the characters in the story. So we're going to practice use this skill again by using our text, and we're going to identify different types of characters in the story, A Letter to Amy. Remember that a character's name may be specific. Like in Geraldine the Music Mouse, the mouse's name was Geraldine. It's sometimes the words name a character who is not in the picture on the page. We'll dive more into that after we go through our reading thinking steps and listen to the text. Today, our reading thinking steps to get to our reading thinking job of I can identify characters in a story. First, we are going to find the pictures of the characters. Once we found the characters in the pictures, we're going to find their name. Step 3, we're going to put together the characters in the pictures with their names. We're going to connect their names to the characters. A character can be a person, an animal, a creature, or even a thing in a story. So while you are listening to the text, A Letter to Amy, pay attention to who the characters are in the story. So, without further ado, let's enjoy the text, A Letter to Amy. To Amy by Ezra Jack Keats. I'm writing a letter to Amy. I'm inviting her to my party, Peter announced. Why don't you just ask her? You didn't write to anyone else, said his mother. Peter stared at the sheet of paper for a while and said, Well, this way is sort of special. He folded the letter quite a few times, put it in the envelope, and sealed it. Now I'll mail it, he said. What did you write? His mother asked. Will you please come to my birthday party? Peter. You should just tell her when to come. So he wrote on the back of the envelope, It is this Saturday at 2. Now I'll mail it. Put a stamp on. He did and started to leave. Wear your raincoat. It looks like rain. He put it on and said, It looks like rain. You better stay in, Willie, and ran out to mail his letter. Walking to the mailbox, Peter looked at the sky. Dark clouds raced across it like wild horses. He glanced up at Amy's window. She wasn't there. Only Pepe, her parrot, sat peering down. Willie, didn't I tell you to stay home? Peter thought, what will the boys say when they see a girl at my party? Suddenly, there was a flash of lightning and a roar of thunder. A strong wind blew the letter out of his hand. Peter chased the letter. He tried to stop it with his foot, but it blew away. Then it flew high into the air and landed, skipping across a hopscotch game. The letter blew this way and that. Peter chased it this way and that. He couldn't catch it. Big drops of rain began to fall. Just then, someone turned the corner. It was Amy. She waved to him. The letter flew right towards her. She mustn't see it, or the surprise will be spoiled. They both ran for the letter. In his great hurry, Peter bumped into Amy. He caught the letter before she could see it was for her. Quickly, he stuffed the letter into the mailbox. He looked for Amy, but she had run off crying. Now she'll never come to my party, thought Peter. He saw his reflection in the street. He looked all mixed up. When Peter got back to his house, his mother asked, "Did you mail your letter?" "Yes," he said sadly. Saturday came at last. Everybody arrived but Amy. "Shall I bring the cake out now?" his mother asked Peter. "Let's wait a little," said Peter. "Now, bring it out now," chanted the boys. "All right," said Peter slowly. "Bring it out now." Just then the door opened. In walked Amy with her parrot. "A girl? Ugh," said Eddie. "Happy birthday, Peter," said Amy. "Happy birthday, Peter," repeated the parrot. Peter's mother brought in the cake she had baked and lit the candles. Everyone sang. "Make a wish," cried Amy. "Wish for a truck full of ice cream," said Eddie. "A store full of candy and no stomach ache." But Peter made his own wish and blew out the candles at once. Now that we just enjoyed listening to the story, A Letter to Amy, remember, our reading thinking job is identifying the characters in the story. So here you see on the screen all of the different characters in our story. In my box here, I have all of the characters' names: Amy, Willie, Peter, and Peter's mom. Your teacher is going to pause the video and you guys are going to play a game of match the name to the character. All right, let's see if you were right. We would match the name Amy to this picture, as this is Amy. We'll talk more about Amy in a little bit. You probably matched the name Willie to this picture of the dog. We also matched Peter's mom to this picture. This is a picture of Peter's mom. And of course, this is Peter. We match the name Peter to the picture of Peter. This is the picture of Peter. Now that we know the characters in the text and we were able to match the names to the characters, let's dive in to the text to find out more about these characters. Before we do that, who is the story mostly about? Your teacher's going to pause the video. We learned there are many characters in this story. Every story has a character or maybe characters that it is mostly about. When we say mostly about, that means That character is on almost every single page, and that is the character that probably has the problem. Our story is mostly about Peter. So let's dive in and learn more about Peter and the other characters. Let's take a look at these pages. Where is Amy in the picture, and how do you know? Your teacher is going to pause the video and you guys are going to find Amy in the picture and then talk about how do you know that that character is Amy. Go ahead and point to the screen of where you found Amy in the picture. Are you pointing to this little girl right here? You're right. This girl is Amy. We know that this is Amy because she's sitting on the ground by looking at the picture. And we also can go back to the text and read, Peter bumped into Amy. So we can know that the word bumped can tell us that maybe she fell down. Amy is right here. She fell down because Peter bumped into her. We know that this character is Amy. Looking at these pages, your teacher is going to pause the video and you guys are going to find Peter in this picture on these pages. Where is Peter and how do you know? Go ahead and point to the screen of where you found Peter on these pages. We can look on the pages and see that Peter is a child. We also see that there are other children on the pages, but we know while listening and reading the text that Peter had his mom in the beginning of the story. We know that this is Peter because his mother is hugging him. We also know he looks, a little sad. Why do you think Peter looks sad on these pages? Your teacher will pause the video. He looks a little sad, probably because Amy is not there yet. We learned this through reading the text. Everybody arrived but Amy. And we know before this page, Peter mailed a letter to Amy wanting Amy to come. We know this is Peter because it was his birthday and his mom is hugging him. Now your teacher is going to pause the video and you are going to talk about who has Peter asked to stay in the house? And why did Peter say that? Point to the screen of the character that was asked to stay in the house. You're probably pointing to the dog. Do you remember the dog's name? The dog's name is Willie. Peter asked Willie to stay in because he looked outside and noticed it was storming. One more question about Willie. Did Willie listen to Peter? No. We learn on the next couple of pages that Willie follows Peter as Peter goes mails his letter. In a letter to Amy, we learned about Peter as the main character, mostly about. We also learned about some other characters, Amy, Willie, Peter's pet dog, and Peter's mom. Today in Seesaw, you are going to answer the question of which picture is Amy, and then you're going to draw and label a picture of Peter and Willie. And don't forget to label your picture. Until next time, bye, Kipsters.